The South African National Roads Agency Limited says over 35,000 job opportunities were created for previously disadvantaged individuals, including the youth and women, to work on its road infrastructure projects. Now, the Government Road Agency presented its 2024-2025 annual financial results to Parliament yesterday. It also announced that it has received an unqualified audit for the 2024-2025 financial year, with a total expenditure exceeding 40 billion rand. For more on this, we are joined by the SANRAL Chief Executive Officer, Reginald Demana. CEO, great to have you. Thank you. Thanks so much for joining us here on the program.
Thank you for the invitation, and greetings to you and all your viewers.
Yeah, so, I mean, having a look at the results, I suppose it's an optimistic note to start on. But if we look at some of the challenges that face SANRAL, I gather it's probably the poor state of the road infrastructure in many parts of the country. So let's have a look at the annual results that you announced and sort of addressing the matter of some of these roads.
Yeah, maybe let me start with the state of the roads. You will recall that SANRAL manages just about 27,500 kilometers. That is 4% of South Africa's road network. So it's small in size, but the impact of that 4% is that it carries almost 40% of all traffic on South Africa's roads. And it also carries about 60% to 70% of freight. So that is your long distance trucks and all that. So its impact is huge. And therefore, you will understand that when people complain about the poor state of the roads, it's usually outside of that 4%. Having said that, it's because the coverage of 90%, you can imagine that people feel that. Obviously, for us to manage that 4%, which carries a lot of traffic and freight, we spend a lot of money, 40 billion you mentioned. A significant part of that goes into road maintenance as well as some of our capital projects. There are a lot of expansion projects that we are looking at across the major corridors. You look at the N2, N3, for example, in KZN. You look at projects in Gauteng, Moloto Road, N2 in Emelo in Mpumalanga. So there's quite a lot that's going on, including on the toll projects. And obviously, when we do the work, we employ a lot of people. We've created about 35,000 job opportunities during the year, and including supporting SMMEs wherever we operate. One of the key features of our projects is what we call contract participation goals, in which we try and make sure that 30% of the value of our projects is invested in local communities, or at least supports local communities and SMMEs. So that does help bring about economic change, economic impact wherever we operate. So that's really in short the results. You did mention we achieved an unqualified audit for the year. That was very important. But another milestone we achieved very early on last year in April was we finally ended e-tolls. With that, we unlocked borrowing limits for the toll. So now we are able to go and borrow money to implement our toll projects. And the first loan we concluded recently was with the National Development Bank, the so-called BRICS Bank, to support our toll portfolio.
So, I mean, there certainly are many issues to get into, and I know, upfront congratulating you for those unqualified results, because it's an important aspect of reporting, and as you say, that is exactly what is needed. But let's have a look, and I want to delve a little into these job opportunities, and we speak about job opportunities, but beyond these short-term jobs, have you managed to create proper employment, long-term employment for those that have been involved in all of this?
Yeah, I think construction by its very nature is never really a long-term permanent employment type of industry or sector. So it's always cyclical. Some projects will be a few months, some could take 2 to 3 years. So our projects in general will run from 2 to 4 years. So it's always like that. Unfortunately, that's the type of sector. What we do is the Department of Labor does give you a conversion you can use from 35,000 job opportunities. You probably get to somewhere in the region of 15,000 full-time equivalent. So there is a conversion that you use. What is important for us is that there are a lot of people unemployed out there. So the more opportunities we create, we train them, we give them exposure, they are able to take those skills and go elsewhere. Some people continue to work on this project, so from project to project for many years. But that's really the type of sector that we have.
Yeah. In terms of the e-tolls, because that's a big thing. It really is a very big thing. It's finally ended at this point in time. But now, how do you plan on funding the national road network sustainably without toll income? And are you confident that Treasury can continue footing the bill in this fiscal climate?
So I think let me start by saying that user pay principle remains government policy. So we are not moving away from tolling. However, we have learned an important lesson that urban tolling, in the way e-toll was, does not work. So that's not the something we will pursue going forward. Where we have your boom down at tolls, where people stop and pay, compliance there is 99.9%. People who don't pay will be usually your motorbikes that sneak through the gates. But people in South Africa pay very well across our toll gate. So that's the model we'll continue to adopt going forward. You raise an important aspect. Can Treasury, through the revenue fund, continue to pay for all the roads? Clearly, that's not affordable, that they cannot do that. So we'll have to look at triple P projects. We'll have to look at new tolling routes. Obviously, wherever we employ the tolls, we must take into account social factors, how we support communities around the tolls. We must also target certain areas. For example, should we not be tolling more towards the trucks to make sure that trucks and rail-friendly cargo migrates away from road to rail?
Yeah, and that obviously is all dependent on rail, because that's where you've also found that a lot of the stress on the national roads is because of a deteriorated rail network and the transportation of trucks as opposed to trains, and that's something that I think needs to be addressed in a very, very big way. What's happening there? What is the latest? I imagine you're constantly in touch with the rail networks.
Look, yeah, although I can't talk for them, but I know my colleague, Michelle Phillips at Transnet, is doing a great job. There's a lot of improvement, green shoots coming through across different corridors. Whether you look at the iron ore line, you look at the manganese line, you look at the coal line, they have recently announced through the Department of Transport that they've appointed 11 companies that will take different concessions or lines. So all of that is really contributing to an improving picture. And I think we'll reap the benefits for that. So I'll say that the road to rail migration is well under implementation. These things do take time, but there are very good green shoots. On PRASA's side, which is the passenger rail side, obviously you have seen them opening a whole lot of corridors across the country. Where I live, I actually now enjoy every morning seeing the People's Train, the Blue Train, moving every day up and down, carrying people. So it is coming. It has taken time, but I think we are finally starting to see the results.
I hope so. I really am. I mean, I also know recently, and I spoke to it during a road trip through the Northern Cape, I actually saw a lot of work being done on the rails there as well. So, hopefully this is going to be sorted out fastly. I just made up a word, sorted out fast. Recently, SANRAL actually defended a High Court legal challenge on the tender awards issue, which was involving Urban Icon. This was concerning the rendering of civil engineering services in respect of infrastructure projects for the improvement of roads. What was SANRAL's argument on the tender awarding?
Yeah, I think generally some of these things, the case really on that particular one was that you do have some of these lowest bidders who will argue that I'm the lowest price in all of these bidders, so I do deserve the tender because I've tendered the lowest price. But that's not always the only consideration. One takes into account a whole lot of things: experience, your capability, the size of the company. Will you be able to execute this type of work with what you have? Also, sometimes the lowest prices can be risky because we might realize that where you are pricing, you will actually not be able to execute the job successfully. You will run out of money along the way, which puts us at risk that our project will not be complete. We might have to go and give you additional expenditure, or maybe altogether you'll abandon site. So it's a typical tender contest around losing bidders. It's very common. We are used to that. But I think the message is that being the lowest bidder does not always guarantee you to win a tender. Of course, it is important for us to be looking at bidders like that, but there's a whole lot of other consideration in functionality assessments of tenders.
Yeah, and certainly an important one at that. And I didn't get to speak about more in depth some of the roads and the state of the roads and the app that's been introduced, the pothole app, and the maintenance backlog, because that's a big one. I mean, I was seeing now a shutdown on one of the major roads because of a sinkhole here on the R21 in Willowfontein. That's going to be closed from today until February next year. So there's a lot happening in SANRAL. So I do insist that people go and have a look and see the results and how this is all going to be funded. But thank you so much for joining us. SANRAL Chief Executive Officer Reginald Demana speaking to us about the state of South Africa's roads and releasing their 2024-2025 annual financial results yesterday. And remember, these are the national roads, not what you're driving around in the cities. Those are not run by SANRAL. These are the national roads that we are talking about here.